When life throws you the inevitable curveball, your dad dies, your wife dies or leaves, a child gets sick, you lose your job, can't find a new one. These things just are part of life. We don't think about them much because as long as they're not happening in that moment, then they're not on our radar. But if you do this work long enough, you have lived the experience through being in the circle with another man that's going through that thing.
You're a man living in the modern world in a time when men and manhood are not what they once were. You live life on your own terms. You're self-sufficient. You think for yourself and you march to the beat of your own drum. When life knocks you down, you get back up because in your gut, you know that's what men do. You're a badass and a warrior. And on the days when you forget, we are here to remind you who you really are.
All right, men, I'm very excited to introduce you to Tomlinson. Tomlinson is a man who has been in this work for 28 plus years. That's when he did his Sterling Men's Weekend. He's a man who fucking lives the work. He has been the president of one of the largest men's organizations in the world, the MDI, Men's Division International. He's a successful businessman. He was a vice president of marketing of a major Canadian company called Obisform at one point, and now he has his own business in financial services, and he helps people secure their fucking financial future. He does very, very well at it, and he's a damn good man. And he's one of the few men who comes to me, looks me in the eye, smiles at me, and says, "Fuck you, Baloo." And I sit there and take it because when he says it, he's usually right. So with no further ado, give it up for Tomlinson. Welcome, Tomlinson. So Tomlinson, why don't you start by just telling the men a bit about your background, and then let's have a conversation really about why it's important that men stick with this work and not just do it to achieve a goal and then fuck off.
Okay, yeah, sure. Background, yeah, as you said, 28 years ago, I was introduced to the Sterling Men's Division, which later became MDI in 2000. And, I was at a particular point in my life when that happened. I just had a child and I wasn't happy with my marriage and was actually thinking about leaving, with a newborn. I went off and did that, and I met these men, and they were like, can your wife raise this child on her own? And I was like, no, she's going to suck at it. And they were like, well, then you don't have a choice. And that was a kind of a seminal moment for me, was that I needed to put the needs of my daughter before my own needs, and to raise her. And, eventually my wife did leave. It was an amicable split. She actually ended up living in my house for 4 years because I couldn't afford to keep the house and pay her spousal. And she moved into the basement after living outside for 3 or 4 months as a tenant. So I wrote her a big check. She wrote me back a smaller one every month. And along the way with all of that, I was, rising through the ranks of MDI, which is, at the time was about 1,000 men. There was a schism that happened a few years ago where some of the West Coast men left, but I was the president, became the president in 2017. I'd been on the board. I'd done every leadership role in the organization, and it's about 600 men now. It's a pretty significant size, and being president of a volunteer role, it sure felt like full time. It was a lot of work. Then I've just continued to, with all that I learned, mostly the hard way, in all those various leadership opportunities. Because in an organization that size, the further up you go in leadership, the quality of men that you're interacting with, also in terms of doing the work, they become very good at it, and that really, rounded out my character and who I am, and allowed me to change careers 11 years ago, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. And my marketing career basically disappeared, and I was able to, you know, I got recruited to uh, join IG and be a financial planner. And you know, I'd been interviewing in marketing roles for like, I don't know, like 8 months at this point, no job. And I was at a men's meeting and I was talking about how they were trying to recruit me. I wasn't really that interested. And one of the men in the circle looked at me and he said, "That's great, Geoff. What's your plan B?" And the truth was, I didn't have a fucking plan B. And that changed my life. And because without that man speaking to me in that way, you know, even after I've been doing the work at that point for 17 years, I would have chickened out. I wouldn't have done it. I would have continued to pursue something in marketing, which would have hurt my family financially and me mentally, because I love what I do now and I didn't love that. So it allowed me to find my passion and to have a much more successful career, both monetarily and accolades and so on. Without, you know, that man saying that to me, I truly believe that I would not have found my way here. And it was harsh, you know, like at the moment I was like, wow, you know, I don't have a plan B. I'm really fucked, actually. And that's how you know, that was a big moment career-wise, but it also bonded me to, you know, even stronger to the organization, made me want to be president, and I did become president. And yeah, I think that's, you know, now what I do is mostly mentorship of other leaders, you know, so that I'll be assigned like the man who leads the 200 men on the West Coast, or, you know, to do a weekly call with him and just ask him questions and see what I can do to make his life uncomfortable so that he grows as a man and as a leader and supports the 200 men that he leads and the families that that are connected to that. And actually, I quite enjoy that job because it comes with less responsibility, but well, actually more responsibility but less work. So that's the background part.
I want you to just maybe, you know, poll the men for a second, ask them why they decided to get involved in men's work. And let's take the direction, the conversation, the direction of why is it that men just are goal-oriented in their desire to be in a men's group and why that's a mistake?
Okay, sure. Well, I am interested in why the men have decided to pursue men's work. So let's hear from you.
Why I decided to pursue men's work. I've always felt very strongly in any area of my life that community is important. And funnily enough, even though I still do everything by myself, that it's important to have a community of men around you. Or at the time, I didn't know it was men, but to help me see what I'm shit at, and to constantly push me to be better, because I don't believe that we're meant to do things just by ourselves. I'm not meant to do things just by myself. And I found that even though fucking Baloo is such a dick, he pushes you and he cares. And the rest of the men here have helped me find that community and helped me become a better leader for other men, which I didn't see myself as before. So, and being a leader and taking that role, like you had alluded to, just makes you better and better. Makes me better and better and better. Even though I don't always want to do it because it's difficult.
Next man, but choose quickly.
My sponsor, Masera, was producing results in his career, and he was the man who would not get girls, and all of a sudden he was getting girls. And I said, "What the fuck's going on in your life?" He said, "It's men's work." He told me about Circle Up. Here I am. Yeah, seeing the results in my sponsor's life brought me here. Complete.
And I saw what my sponsor brought me to, where a bunch of men gathered around a fire also and listened to another Zoom call about what was going on. It just made me realize that that's something I wanted, like whether it was big or small, like I just wanted something, some sort of connection to men that way, because in real life, I never had that, not in the workplace, not in school, not like just nowhere. Like I was always an outsider. And I thought maybe if this is a way where outsiders can come together and be together, or just at least where people really do come together despite their differences and can actually really work and be really honest with each other. And that's just something that all men need, regardless of who he is. Because like in the book.
All right.
Yeah.
That's the band. That's the band I did. You need to be on camera, so yes.
And speak up.
My sponsor, Tony Vier, he told me how helpful this was to him and how good it was, month after month. And I just knew I needed to get to the next level. And I trusted him because I did the landmark for him, and that really took me to a high level. And I trusted his word. Tony Vier? Yeah. The black guy? Yeah, Brooklyn, yes. Yeah, I know that. Oh, yeah. Good man. Very, very powerful. That's it.
Cooper here. Blue and I have known each other now. It's going on 6 years. And when I wrote my book, he came up to me at the end. He congratulated me. And then he says, "Do you have men in your life?" And I said, "Not really." He said, "Would you like to find some?" I said, "Yeah." And he's been good to his word. But when I reflect, I think a couple of changes. I mean, I'm a CPA. I'm an accomplished professional. But the reality is I've always been too nice a guy. And I don't think I've been as determined as my skills will take me. And so, probably the book was one of the first things that I did that I just was more spontaneous and doing something. And I think I can say many things now have fallen that way. And I was reflecting on that very fact that decisions now come much faster for me. And I'm just much more confident in doing them, even though men may not think I take enough risks. For me, I'm very comfortable in that I am doing more than I used to do. Complete.
All right, Garcia. I took the weekend and into men's work because my cousin had done it. He's also my sponsor. I had seen changes in his life and wanted to know what it was, asked him, and I didn't have any men or role models in my life, and that's how I'm here. Complete.
What change were you looking for, Garcia?
Yeah, so at the time I was in a situationship, like a messy relationship for 10 years that wasn't going anywhere, was unhappy in my job, and both of those have since been corrected.
Oh.
Awesome.
All righty. So for me, man, it's going back a long time now.
Your name,
my
please?
Business, ARPA. So
Thank you.
My business was young. I think we were maybe doing 150K a year at the time. And I was actually out to at least 3 guest events that I can recall. But then my sponsor, who ironically is not the man that brought me out to those guest events, he's another man that I'm really close to, and was in a similar situation. His business wasn't doing a whole lot. And then all of a sudden it exploded. So I spoke to him about it. It was blatantly obvious it was part of the men's work, because when we were together, you'd often go aside for calls and whatever the other stuff he's doing. And so he came to me, spoke to me about it one day, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, fuck it, let's do it. And so I did. Now my business has probably grown 6-7-fold from way back when. I'm complete.
All right. And for myself, I was going through a divorce. I joined a men's group, not a Sterling group. It was rough. I had Sobel sponsor me. He just said, "You got to do this." And at the time, it didn't really hit me. But when I started to go through my divorce and I joined a Sterling group, I realized the power of being with men and how being with men is going to make me introspective in a ruthless way. And that took me from tragic to fucking magic. But it's also been very powerful to be here with other men and help sharpen other men. That really is what gives me the most juice right now. Complete.
It was 1996, and my boss, who was like part of the yachty crowd, his last name was Drummond, and he came from like the Drummondville and Drummond Avenue are named after his family in Quebec. They owned mining, the big money. And he was the director, and I didn't have a lot of respect for him, actually, because he was just kind of this weak you know, guy that had driving around in a Porsche when he was making 60 grand a year because daddy bought it for him. And he went off and did this weekend, and he came back and he was different. And he met with me in the bar down below where our agency was, and he looked at me and he said, you know, what? I said, why are we here? And he said, because you don't usually come to the bar, I do. And he's like, well, I wanted to talk to you about you. I was like, okay, this is my boss, right? And he's like, do you want, and I've been passed over to be promoted to director multiple times. And my colleagues, some of them whom would even get promoted, would come to me afterwards and say, I can't believe I got this job over you. And he said, do you want to know what your problem is and why you're not getting promoted? I said, desperately. And he said, you're an intellectual bully. Anybody who's got authority over you, senior clients, me, you know, my boss, you bully us intellectually. You try to make us feel stupid. And so you don't do that with your colleagues. You don't do it with people working for you. And you don't do it with the junior clients, only with people with authority. And he said, nobody wants to give you more authority because of that. You make everybody that has authority uncomfortable. And I was fucking blown away. I couldn't believe it. Like, I knew he was right. And someone had the balls to tell me the truth. And then he said, by the way, there's this weekend thing. I was like, yeah, I'm coming to your open house. And I signed up. And it was 7 months after my weekend that I got promoted to director, because with the awareness of that problem and then being around the men, you know, the weekend was great, but it actually didn't really address that issue. I came back going, I went to the weekend for this thing, and this thing is still here. But the men on my team, they were just all over me. And I kept progressing. And, you know, in 7 months, I got the promotion, you know, because I dealt with it. Because once a week, there were men in my face about how I was being at work. Was it coming back? And the truth is, it would. Like, I would put a cap on it, and then it would come back. And then I had a breakthrough at one meeting where I was bawling my eyes out, and that set me on the stage. And there's been multiple breakthroughs since. You know, I talked about my wife one, but one man mentioned being indecisive. I became a leader, and the other sub-leaders came to me and they said, you can't make a decision and you doubt every decision. You know, you're going to cause us to lose a lot of men if you don't become decisive. Then I realized, fuck, I'm indecisive. This was 2 years later. I'm indecisive in my career. I'm indecisive at home. I'm indecisive everywhere. And that was like now I'm not. Baloo met me later, probably can't believe that at one point my biggest problem was being indecisive. Because most people now think of me as like this totally decisive guy who makes bold moves. And I've talked way too long. Sorry about that, Baloo. I'm complete.
No, good. That was actually a powerful, powerful story to share. So,
Santanato, I'm in the men's work because I didn't know that I needed it. I was going through a divorce, wandering around Colombia aimlessly, just thinking that was a great life. Meanwhile, I had no purpose and no direction, and my purpose and direction was my family, and I gave that up when I initiated my divorce. And I realized that I was raised by a father who was feminine, and most of my friends were women, and most of my clients were women, and I just talked to women all the time, and I was emotional. I was emotional about money and life, and I would complain and whine and bitch a lot, and wonder why my business wasn't going anywhere, and repeating the same year in business for about 7 years, over and over again, trading sex for success. Did my men's weekend and realized that and a whole lot more, and embraced, you know, masculinity, my masculinity and my power and my leadership. And I stay in the men's work because I get more and more out of it through leading and volunteering and giving my time and energy and talent back to other men. My business is going to have its best year ever this year in business. And I've got great men in my life that I can count on. Great men in my life that I can count on.
oh, no. Good for you, Santanato. Well fucking said.
Yeah, for me, it's rather simple. I suffer when I'm in isolation. I suffer when I'm out of contact and when I don't have spaces that are for real conversations and where I can be challenged. And so that's where I've consistently found that through men's work of various sorts. And yeah, I know I need it. I know I need it. And when I get too comfortable and start thinking that I don't, everything starts to backslide and go sideways, and I go soft and indecisive, and then I end up finding my way back to it. So that's why I'm here.
So I suppose what got me into it was some work I had been doing on myself for a while. Of course, that was I would have called an intellectual exercise that went on for about a fucking decade. It got me to get clear on what was not working and shake all that shit off in my life. But then I had this big fucking void. I'm like, what am I going to do now? And my sponsor simply said only one ever thing about the men's weekend. It was just simply, fuck, I would love to see what you look like after the men's weekend. The only thing he ever said. I dawdled for about a year with that. And then I talked to a mentor of mine who basically wised me up and told me that, hey, I've met a lot of people like yourself who are smart but not successful. And he told me the most important thing that he's ever gotten and what has been his success was relationship now. Everyone that he had in his life. So I said, fuck it. I'm going to go out there and do this because it was tied to something I was looking at anyway, some sort of purpose for my life. And once I got into it, I'm like, okay, no more looking at other shit things. Let me just stick with one fucking thing here for a while, not complicate my life. Along the way, obviously, I learned a lot about what got me into where I was at that. And since then, I've been able to, course correct, find my way in life. Back from basically having nothing. I had fucking nothing when I did my weekend. I had already walked away from success and everything else. So now I've rebuilt a life. I have a good woman in it. Closer than ever with family. It's made me almost step up to being the patriarch now in my family. That figurehead as a son. Why I keep fucking doing it is I know daily if I'm paying attention how easy it is to slide out of that way of being. And it's so fast that I don't even see it sometimes.
Oh,
And then when I realize that's what happened, I can course correct, but I didn't realize how viciously quick it could come over me. It's like being seduced by a woman, that behavior. And, yeah, I keep the men around me to make sure that I'm not wearing that way of being out there so I can continue on my path and serve a purpose that's worthy.
Perfect segue. Baloo asked me to be here today to talk about something near and dear to my heart after 28 years, which is, kind of why men leave and why they should stay in this work. Because one of the things you'll find, like there's the odd man, and if you do this in any men's circle, you get the same types of things. There's the odd man that says, I did this because I needed to be around some men. But most men come in to this work with a specific problem and a specific need. I'm struggling with my divorce. I'm struggling with my career. I'm stuck. I can't find my purpose. I don't know how to have relationships with men. It is some like big, overwhelming issue that, because it's not, like most men, when before they've done this work, would rather be watching a game, having a beer, hanging out with their friends, whatever it is they like to do with their spare time. So that thing drives men into this work. And it also is often when we're introducing the work to another man, it's what we tend to talk about, right? It's like, hey, dude, your career sucks or your marriage is on the rocks and you need to do something. And this is what you need to do, right? That's the message that we tend to deliver. And the ultimate issue for all men's groups is that fast forward 6 months, 8 months, a year, or whatever it is, often that man has mostly dealt with that issue, or at least he feels like he's dealt with that issue. as Banks was talking about, he hasn't really dealt with it all, and it'll slide back in without it. But in his brain, I had a problem with my marriage, and now that's okay. I had a problem with my career, and now I've been promoted. I, you know, problem solved, right? And as a result, they start to go, well, I'm just not getting anything else because I got what I needed, and they're gone. And the key issue with that is that life just doesn't work like that. You don't solve an issue like that. It takes, like, if I look at my issue of being an intellectual bully, it still crops up 28 years later. I still have to deal with it. I still need men around because it sneaks back into my existence. But the other thing is if you keep doing this work, you're going to bump into something else. Like, you're like, oh, this is great. I got my career fixed, and now my marriage is shit. Or I got my marriage fixed, and now I feel empty. Or I'm an asshole. Or I, start to have substance issues, or whatever it is. Now I'm totally out of shape. Or, for me, it was bumping into, indecision, and how that was affecting my whole life. So life just continuously throws it at you. And the quest to be your man you want to be is, unfortunately, a lifelong quest. And it doesn't go away. And new things continuously come up. But the other thing that I would say that men who are leaving don't understand is that if you're around long enough, when life throws you the inevitable curveball, your dad dies, your wife dies or leaves, a child that you have gets sick, you lose your job, can't find a new one. These things just are part of life, right? We don't think about them much because as long as they're not happening in that moment, then they're not on our radar. But if you do this work long enough, you have lived the experience of every one of those things through being in the circle with another man that's going through that thing. You've seen what he did wrong. You've seen what he did right. You've seen the emotional trauma. You've seen men lose a father, and their family wants them to now take up the mantle and not be able to handle it. And you've seen men take up that mantle and be able to handle it. You've watched it all. When my father passed 11 years ago, I'd had 3 or 4 men in the previous 17 years lose their father. And he was a towering figure in my life. But I had seen it. I'd seen what worked and didn't work. When my career changed, I'd seen men go through that. I had preparation that other men who are not involved in this just do not have, because you're there. And if you love your men, you feel them when they're going through that. You feel what's going on. You empathize, not just sympathize, because you're teammates. You are doing this work together. And that insight, like when my dad did pass and how I handled it, like, I was devastated. But I had a new career, and I continued to be successful in that. And my sister was completely devastated. And I was able to hold up the fort and do it all because I'd seen what needed to be done, and I'd seen the context that needed to be held in order to do that, which was, I'm the man now, because fucking nobody else was. Now, I didn't want that. I didn't want that context. I didn't want to have to do it. But I knew it was necessary, and I knew that through the support of my men that I would get there. I went in with confidence, even though I was flying blind. So it's hard when you're new to see this. Like, I could have, I remember after I got promoted thinking, do I still need this thing? I got my promotion. My marriage is doing okay. This is why I went to the weekend, and do I still need this? And I was getting enough out of it to stick it out. And then, something else happened. I was like, holy shit, life's a bitch. Life is going to keep coming at me, and it's better lived as a team sport. I wonder if I could throw it open. I'm curious as to what the men think about what I'm saying, if they have anything they want to say.
Yeah, Tomlinson, we had a man we were just dealing with before you came on, that we had a man who left our program early, and we let him leave, but he chose to leave. What could we have done differently? We kind of went over that. You know, I'll just say that what I'm getting from your conversation, what you said, is that life never stops and life will continue to go. And a man thinks he's good right now when things are good and hunky dory, but give it 4 months and life will throw some curveball or some shit at him, right? So in the moment, you know, where can we go, or who can we be, or what can we say that might have a man kind of realize that and get that? Because typically we deal with men that have already made up their mind, then they're a hard no, or
Mhm.
they've decided. So, you know, what can we do, say, or be to turn that around so that he knows we have his back?
Well, I think that to some degree, there's two key parts of it. One is what I just talked about, and the other is that to become the man you always wanted to be is actually a lifelong quest. Like it's just not going to go away. I mean, maybe, at the very end stages of your life, you may not, need that, but you may still. Um, the that's the other piece of it is that like life's, going to throw you a curveball, and by the way, we'll still be here when that happens, so that you don't close the door to that man, because some men just can't see it until the curveball hits them right in the face, and then you're like, yeah, we're still here, but if you're coming back, this time you're staying. You're not coming back to fix this new problem and then leaving again, because we need to be able to trust you, that you're not just using us to take what we've got and go somewhere else. I don't deliver that message at the time. I deliver that if the man does come back. Most don't, because the work we do is uncomfortable, difficult, hard, and some men just can't handle it, frankly. They just can't deal with it. The other thing is that, I see a lot when men are leaving and they think they've got what they needed, but in reality, what's actually happening is they got what they came in for, and now they're bumping up against something much bigger and deeper, much bigger and deeper, that is actually the thing that they need to deal with the most. And that thing scares the shit out of them. And, the lie they tell themselves is I've got what I needed and I don't need to deal with that. Inside, they know, like, that is probably more common than we think, because we don't actually know, because the man won't even touch that. It's like a third rail. It's like he's not going there, right? And a lot of what we do, when we do this work, you're self-led for the most part. You're the one who brings up the issue. You're the one that actually directs the conversation. And as a result, if you're doing this work and you're afraid of the big thing, you can skate. You can not reveal it. You can let it go. Or you might even not be truly aware of it. It might just be a feeling like, holy fuck, I'm coming up against this thing. These men are gonna sense it, and they're gonna push me right into this. I got to get the fuck out of here. It's unfortunate, because they're running away from from the life that they could have, because the real transformation is going to happen when they have to confront the big lie they tell themselves. That's where the real gold is. The weekend's spectacular and fantastic, but it's actually a doorway to transformation. It's a snapshot in time from which there's good learning. But where men really transform into who they can be, to being the man they always wanted to be, is right here, right now. That's where it happens. The other stuff, like, some of you probably sponsored men of the weekend. They never do any men's work afterwards. You see them 3 years later, over something, and they're like, yeah, that was cool. They remember one thing about it. There's been no substantive change to their life. Maybe they've learned a couple of things about being a man, but that they kind of remember, or a couple of things about women. But those are tidbits. They're like stuff they could have read in a book. The work is done here. The work is done together. That's where you go from the man you are to the man you always wanted to be.
Mr. Tomlinson,
Yes.
as you were speaking there, all I heard was coming from inside me. It's one of the things that the man I want to be is wise, which takes me time to look deeper into who I am, that stuff that's going on behind everything else. And of course, the power of being around men more consistently is where the wisdom comes from. So, yeah, that's one of those other benefits I find of continuing to do the work is the access to the wisdom, both internally and from the others around me because of their experiences. Huge.
Well, I consider myself wise now, but I wasn't, 26 years ago. I learned wisdom through men that had been doing this work for longer than me, sharing the wisdom and then being willing to do the tough coaching that they were giving me and to listen to them and not ignore what they had to say. That was what led me to a path where now I feel like I have some wisdom to share. But that took a long time. Acquiring wisdom is, it's not something that comes quickly. You're going to have to deal with this one for a long time, years. And even when you actually acquire some, you'll realize how far there is to go. Like I'm still acquiring today, 28 years later, because that's just the way it goes. Wisdom is fundamentally a collection of learnings that you're able to properly express to others. Well, that's almost like the definition from the dictionary, right? So in order to do that, you got to be doing this work to collect it. Because you can't get it, just by doing your job and having a relationship with a woman. It's just not going to happen. I mean, maybe when you're 70, you'll have acquired a few tidbits of wisdom, but I don't think that's what you're talking about. You're talking about having wisdom and being able to share it, as soon as possible.
Access it, yeah, like that's what it is. It's the access part. They can get me to my own. And
well, the most important thing you can do if you want to acquire wisdom is expose it to the men like you just did. Because now the rest of the men in your circle are like, Banks wants to be wise. I got to watch for when he's not. I got to watch for when he is. I got to give him an attaboy when he is. And I got to knock him down a peg when he's not and put it in his face. That's the quickest way to get there. And if you're holding on to it yourself, it ain't coming. Your men need to know. Your men need to know everything that you're up against, even if you think it's minor. In fact, a lot of the times, big transformations for me doing this work have come up from bringing up something small that was actually connected to a much bigger part of my personality that I'd been ignoring that was destructive to family, friends, career. So being an open book is the pathway to transformation in this work. And yeah, fortunately, the hard part of that is you also need to have some self-introspection to know what to bring up. But if you do that, you will be here for life. You will be here 28 years later, espousing wisdom to another circle of men, because that's how it goes.
Remember yesterday, Tomlinson, when you were on my podcast, we had a conversation around that quote from ARPA. This is the same ARPA that I talked about, who said that at the core of every place in your life where you're stuck is a lie that you're telling yourself that you've yet to acknowledge. And you were bringing up for these men that there's a lie that they've been telling themselves. Maybe that's a good question for you to ask these men. Where in your life are you telling yourself a lie that you need to acknowledge? That might be an interesting point of discussion for us to take right now.
It's a great point of discussion, and I'll start by answering that question, which is, I would say the lie I'm telling myself right now is that I am doing a good enough job with my marriage. Because do I want to be a guy who's barely a good enough husband, or do I want to be a great husband? Well, there's a lot of work I have to do to be great, and I want to do it. But that's the lie I've been telling myself, that it's okay to be the way I've been being over the last year or two, and particularly last night, as it turns out.
The lie that I've been telling myself is similar to that, and it's that I got it going on. I got it figured out. in my marriage, even right now with my bodybuilding journey, because I've been telling myself what I'm doing is good enough. I'm fucking on point. Not really. I'm not 100% on point. I make a lot of changes and fudges, and that has an impact. And that's true in my relationship with my woman. It's true with my sales activities. There's a laziness at the core of my thinking, and I haven't been acknowledging that. All right, complete.
I'm not doing a good enough job with my main goal of losing weight and getting to the body that I want. And that same thing is affecting my relationship and my business. It's the mentality of just being good enough. It's everywhere for me.
I'm also struggling with losing weight. I lose a few pounds.
What's the lie you're telling yourself? That's the question.
It's okay to have a cheat day or something, but really for me, it's not, because cheat days for me are just, they get me off track.
The lie that I'm telling myself is that I'm doing enough in nutrition and working out. I know I'm capable of so much more, but I haven't set any goals, or I'm not.
A lie that I'm telling myself that I am a good leader in my business, and I end up doing most of the work myself, and then my employees fuck her up.
The lie I'm telling myself is pretty much the exact same. The lie is that only I can do the things that I'm currently doing in my business, when really other people could do them, and I could be doing more effective things.
The lie I'm telling myself is I am satisfied with my life. The reality is I know I'm complacent and I'm accepting it, and I really don't like it, but I haven't been doing something about it.
Cooper!
Yeah, it's kind of been an interesting one as a result of changing business, but the lie that I've been telling myself is that this is too big for me. This goal and pursuit that I'm after in building something is beyond my capabilities.
Yeah, the lie that I'm telling myself is it's that I'm good enough already, as a spouse, as a business person, as a business owner, as a coach, that, it's good enough and I'll figure it out. If I just keep, tinkering away, I'll figure it out. And that's not the case.
The lie I'm telling myself is that it's okay that I'm not living my dream as a public speaker, and it's okay I'm doing other things, and it's okay I'm not using my tools that I've invested in myself. I'm doing other things and making a difference in other ways.
Holy fuck, man, that was intense, huh?
That was awesome. What a great question. Once you realize what the lie is, you opened up a doorway to true transformation into the man you always wanted to be. And continue to explore the question, because some of the lies we tell ourselves are so effective that when you're asked that question, the answer you give is too superficial. Now, I'm not accusing anybody of that. I didn't get that. I'm just saying, for me as a man, I know that to be true. That for me, I'll often go to an easier lie for me to deal with than something else and not even be aware of it. So continue to live in that question, because you may not have nailed it yet. Because I don't know if I did. Every time I answer that type of question, I'm like, is that really it? I mean, obviously that's really important, and it is a lie I'm telling myself. Is it the big one? Well, right now, I think it is, but I might discover, if I live in this question longer, that there's something else that may be causing that behavior that's causing me ultimately to be, at best an adequate husband when I want to be a great one. Like there might be a bigger lie underneath that is leading to this behavior. Not sure what it is yet, but now I got the question to live into and to look into. And the other thing about this, where we go as men, often when we answer that question to ourselves is why, right? Why? Why is Santa not living into being the public speaker he always wanted to be? Well, that's the natural place to go. And there's nothing wrong with that question. But I think you'll find it even more powerful if you ask your men why and have them tell you why they think you're telling yourself this lie, and see where it goes. Now, obviously, I don't know how much time you guys got, but that's the type of thing that could take up, you could put one man in a circle and spend an hour and a half on one man, right? When you start doing that. But it doesn't mean it shouldn't get done, because there might be a nugget that somebody else sees, because men, I mean, all of us, everybody know the Aesop's fable, the emperor has no clothes.
Yep.
So everybody knows it, so I don't need to cover it.
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Yes,
So because every one of us gets up and looks in the mirror and tells ourselves a lie about how we project to the world. All of us do. It's it's an innate part of being a man. It's actually why the circle is so powerful, is that the other men don't buy the bullshit that you feed yourself so effectively. We all are emperors with no clothes. That's why the man was able to identify. There was a time I was in a circle and a man said to me, Tomlinson, I know you well enough to know you're not, but you deliver, like, the way that you are out in the world is like you are an arrogant prick. And I was like, fuck, I totally don't want to be an arrogant prick. And it's not, so that's how I present myself. I was blown away. But another man was able to identify that. Life-changing experience. Suddenly I got to look at every interaction and walk out of it going, is that arrogant prick thing showing up again? Because it's not who I want to be. It's not who I feel I am inside. The other men are the mirror that tells you the truth.
Amen. What is your comment or question for Tomlinson as we seek to wrap up this conversation? Let's start with Santonato.
I really appreciate the looking at the lies that I'm telling myself and that reminder. It's an exercise I've done previously in multiple layers and then promptly forgotten about. And, it's in a journal somewhere and it's just collecting dust. And so, yeah, to have this become a part of like some sort of even a weekly reflection, a weekly revisiting. And I say this because the amount of time and energy that you've spent in these circles and in this work is illuminating to me that, I've got many decades in front of me. So I might as well actually review the work I'm doing. Because that's where so much of the gold is going to be. So thank you for that.
First off, Tomlinson, thank you for many $50 tips. In the context of my comment about myself, life is going very well right now. And the comment you did make that, reality is life feeds you a problem. Okay, you solve it. Another one probably comes along. So maybe I'm just lucky right now. I'm in a hiatus. Do I go looking for problems? What should I be doing in these periods of goodness to, quote, be better ready for when the problems occur?
Here's the thing. The answer about you need to attend more is absolutely true, because when you are dealing with a problem, you are going into a battle. And you could choose to use this time to build armor and weapons for the next battle, which is, making yourself the best man you can be, because that next battle is inevitable. Or you can choose to just relax right now and not worry about it too much because everything's going okay. And then when you go into that battle, you'll have no armor and no weapon. Now, you might still win, but it's going to be a lot more painful. So figure out what you need to do to build your relationship and man you always wanted to be muscle in this intervening time, because it's coming.
Oh,
Life. We talked about this yesterday with Nick. Life is a sine curve. Be happy when you're up here, but know that this is coming again. This is coming again. And then you go back up and down, and that's just how it goes.
Well, how do you increase the, regarding wisdom? We get the wisdom, but it's so hard to fucking apply it. So how do you increase the amount of wisdom that is actually used and not just read, but then we do the opposite?
The answer to that is to be as open a book as you possibly can, to remove your shield and your mask when you're with your men, to the point where you're just like there and there's nothing hidden. And then through that process, you will acquire that wisdom. And through that openness, you will acquire the ability to execute it. But the more that you keep things back from your men, the less you'll be able to acquire, and you'll really struggle with execution. Like, there's no logical reason why that is, by the way. Like, I can't give you like step by step on how that works. It just does.
Can I add something to that? Because we just covered it last week in the point program. Starts with a D, and it has to do with addictions and commitments. Who can help them out?
Discipline.
There you go. Your question was basically, how do I be more disciplined? And the answer is, you be more disciplined.
Yeah. We got some brilliant advice for you. Stop doing that.
My advice to you men is point program's coming to a close. Join Sharpened Circle. Capo will tell you how to do that. Be with us men for the long haul. This will fucking take you to the next level.
Yeah. By the way, like I used to come to these circles, teams, and everything, and it was. I got to admit, I was getting stuff out of it, but a lot of my intention was to collect knowledge, which was very useless. I found, because the moment I was not facing it, it was useless. The moment I tried to apply it, the acquisition of wisdom became. Now I'm having an issue. I get to apply some of these lessons that I've learned from other men and learn about myself. So the collection of knowledge is not really as helpful as the applying it as you need it, as I need it.
So earlier you asked what keeps some of us men around, and I want to answer that question. So for me, we can all agree that life's got a fantastic way of kicking you in the balls when things are going well. So I look at this as insurance. And if I want to make a claim with the men, when life kicks me in the balls, I have to pay my premiums, which is showing up to meetings, every couple of weeks and coming to overnights and giving back to the community. And it's paid off. It does pay off. We had an in-person course here in Toronto for the first time since COVID hit. And I relied on all the men that I made strides to assist it. I was able to pull it off. I think we had 20 men. That's the point.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah, some fell off.
Going through life without consistently being with your men is the equivalent of jumping out of a window without a safety net underneath. These men are your safety net. And when the shit hits the fan and you need to jump, they're going to be there to catch you with a safety net. And that's going to happen to you. I know it's unfortunate and unpleasant, but that is going to occur.
Amen.
Take care of the net.
Tomlinson, thanks for fucking coming. Thanks for bringing the heat. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. I can't even imagine you being indecisive. That is like bizarre to even contemplate.
I know, it was
really,
me.
really great to speak to you 2 days in a row for an hour. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Hey, I love being here. It was an honor to be in your circle of men. I was learning too. That never goes away. And also when I'm teaching a lesson, know that half of them I've forgotten. And now when I have to speak them again, I have to go back and relive them because of this. So thank you so much. And it was awesome being here. And love the work you're doing and keep doing it. Join the Sovereign Men Circle. Absolutely. You'd be making a huge mistake in your life if you don't.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man Podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.